From Philip Schuyler to John Boyd Thatcher to Erastus Corning to Jerry Jennings, Albany has had a long and distinguished list of leaders who have built and served this historic city with distinction. But in that long list of venerable leaders, there is one glaring omission.
Kathy Sheehan.
Not one of those mayors has ever been a sister, an aunt, a grandmother, or a mother. Until now. Finally, Albany will be led by its first woman mayor. I'm proud to support a leader like Kathy Sheehan. Even though my generation may not feel the sting of gender discrimination as sharply as the generations before us, all your numbers of elected women leaders in all levels of government to see that the disparity still exists. Iconic leaders like Gloria Steinem have devoted their lives to breaking through gender barriers and paving the way for future women to stand up and control their own lives. I was born and raised in Albany, attended its public schools, and am now raising my own children here. I love this city, and I value its history, but that doesn't mean I want Albany to be stuck in the past. Kathy Sheehan will offer this city a new perspective and a new voice to help move Albany forward. Her fresh ideas will help it evolve into a stronger and more vibrant city. And as Gloria Steinem did before her, Kathy will help pave the way for more women leaders who share the vision of a modern, prosperous, and inclusive Albany. One leader in particular who has found the courage to lead is Dorcey Applyrs. Dorcey is an amazing example of the talented young leadership we can have in this city. Dorcey is running a campaign to become the City of Albany's Common Council member representing the First Ward. She has quite a resume. Dorcey was born in Washington, D.C. and moved to Albany for graduate school. She has a master's in public health and is currently working towards a doctor of public health degree from SUNY Albany. The list of her accomplishments and experiences is impressive and includes fellowships with the Center for Women in Government and Civil Society, the New York State Department of Health's AIDS Institute Office on Planning and Policy, the New York State Council on Children and Families, United States Department of Health and Human Services Office on Women's Health, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Johns Hopkins University Center for Communications Program, and Harvard University School of Public Health. She has also worked as the Director of Programs for the Capital District African American Coalition on AIDS located in Albany. Dorcey fell in love with her neighborhood here in Albany and wants to lend her unique perspective and talents to the City of Albany Common Council as a representative of the First Ward. Let's support her in that effort. Please welcome Dorcey Applyrs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before I begin, I would just like to acknowledge a few individuals. The first is Lynn Kopka, President of the Troy City Council. And also Cindy Doran, County Legislator for Rensselaer County. Good evening. Thank you, Deborah, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Team Kathy, for this wonderful opportunity.
Yes.
A wise woman once said, without leaps of imagination or dreaming, we lose the excitement of possibilities. Dreaming, after all, is a form of planning. I have done a lot of dreaming in my day, but never imagined that I will be standing before an audience with the distinct pleasure of introducing our very special guest, Ms. Gloria Steinem. Humility, compassion, commitment, integrity, and intelligence are just some characteristics used to describe her. Gloria Steinem, born in Toledo, Ohio, is a writer, lecturer, editor, and feminist activist known internationally as an outspoken champion of women's rights and equality. In fact, Ms. Steinem has been referred to as the focal point for the second wave of the feminist movement in the United States. In 1972, she co-founded the pioneering and feminist Ms. magazine. And under her direction, the magazine tackled important topics, including domestic violence. Ms. became the first national publication to feature the subject on its cover in 1976. Ms. is still being published today after more than 40 years. As a freelance writer, Ms. Steinem was published in Esquire, the New York Times Magazine, and Women's Magazine. Her books include the bestsellers, Revolution from Within, a book of self-esteem, Outrageous Acts and Everyday Rebellions, Moving Beyond Words, and Marilyn, Norma Jean on the life of Marilyn Monroe. She produced a documentary on child abuse for HBO and a feature film about the death penalty for Lifetime. Ms. Steinem helped to found the Women's Action Alliance, a national information center that specialized in non-sexist, multiracial children's education, and the National Women's Political Caucus, a group that continues to work to advance the number of pro-equality women in elected and appointed office. Ms. Steinem co-founded the Women's Media Center in 2004 and served as president and co-founder of Voters for Choice, a pro-choice political action committee. Additionally, she was the founding president of the Ms. Foundation for Women, a national multiracial, multi-issue fund that supports grassroots projects to empower women and girls. Throughout her active career, Ms. Steinem has received countless awards. Most recently, she was a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. Ms. Steinem has mastered the art of getting people to pay attention and transformed the way the United States and other countries view women's issues. Her presence evokes seriousness, sincerity, and support for women who have decided to carry the torch for equality and doing what is right. So thank you, Ms. Steinem, for coming to Albany. In support of Kathy Sheehan, a woman committed to doing what is right for the city of Albany. Please join me in welcoming a living legend, a woman with extremely broad shoulders, for which I stand, Ms. Gloria Steinem.
A future like this year. For your celebration of election to the council. There's a really good feeling in this room, don't you think? And I was standing there thinking of all the reasons I feel so moved and so happy to be here. And I have to say even though she's no longer a candidate, Barbara Smith. We're all focuses, or foci, is that the word? of the massive, diverse women's movement that stretches around the world. And maybe I should just say, Barbara, you made me what I am today. I hope you're satisfied. So I'm happy for that. I'm happy that I'm not in the mayor's race in which I vote.
We are too!
Oh, what a sane race you have. I'm happy to be about to introduce the first candidate I have ever introduced who is so clearly going to win. Profoundly far ahead. I know that everybody before me was saying nice things about Albany of the past, but I don't live here. So I can say it's nice to see that, let's see, I think Albany held the record for machine politics even more than Chicago. You're right. So it's wonderful to know that that record is about to be broken. And you know, this may seem far afield, but I have to say I was sitting there thinking that I'm so happy to be standing on this ground where, before Europeans showed up, there was the creation of the Iroquois Confederacy, where it was egalitarian and matrilineal, and I believe in those languages, certainly in Cherokee and some of the others, there was not even he and she. There was not even gender in the language. The paradigm was the circle, not the pyramid. It wasn't about hierarchy. It wasn't about ranking. It was about linking. The women of Indian country whom I know are, I mean, they have to have a sense of humor to survive. You know? So they say, what did Columbus call primitive? Equal women. People here sparked, women here especially, the women and the men sparked the suffrage movement, and because they were an example. Oh, you mean you haven't heard anything I said?
We've been just very quiet.
Okay.
We're just listening more intently. Yeah, we've got it. We're still standing close.
Our Constitution was modeled, as we know. Finally, now I think that the law schools are confessing that our Constitution was modeled after the Iroquois Confederacy. There were dinners not far from here every Sunday night in which the suffragists-to-be had dinner every Sunday night with the Seneca women, who were wearing their chamois trousers and beaded tunics, while the European women were in corsets and not which is where the bloomer costume came from. The Seneca women were so appalled at these patriarchal refugees that had come here that they referred to them as the women who die in childbirth. So I say that in a deep sense because I think that not only is this possibly a beginning of no more machine politics, but it is a return to a deep kind of democracy that this land once knew. And you in this room are making this happen. I go all over the country as a, I don't know what I am.
You're remarkable.
I'm a kind of peripatetic organizer, right? But you know, because of where I live in New York, where there are about 6 candidates on every city block, I can't do what Barbara did so wonderfully, which is to, as a writer and a thinker and an activist and an organizer, say to herself, maybe we could make democracy work. To do it in a deep way, as the candidates, and there are many great candidates I see in this room, to do it in a deep way, I think is really, in the long run, more important than being a cheerleader or being a trusted messenger. We need us too, but we need people to do it where we are. And as my mother always said, democracy is like a seed. You have to plant it where you are. Mm-hmm. And you in this room are doing that. Now, it's true that I have never, ever, ever, ever supported a candidate who's as far ahead. That alone warms my heart. Sometimes I have to say I will either support you or stay away, whichever is So I give you now the reason why we are deepening democracy here, the reason why you are all so far ahead and about to celebrate, and the reason why I suspect the spirits who were once on this land, women and men, would be celebrating too. Kathy Sheehan.
All for coming here tonight to support what would be an historic moment in our city's history when this great city, this capital of the Empire State, could be led with all of your hard work and support, I'm not taking anything for granted, by a woman. And on September 10th, I want you to be prepared to hear that glass ceiling shatter. But one thing I know is that I would not even have the ability to be breaking that ceiling if it were not for my ability to stand on the shoulders of people like Gloria Steinem and Barbara Smith. When the president announced that he was awarding Gloria Steinem with our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, it's awarded to men and women who have dedicated their own lives to enriching ours. Dedicated their own lives to enriching ours. And Gloria, you have done that for millions and millions. So, because of the gains that we have seen through your hard work, we now live in a country where women earn more bachelor's and advanced degrees than men, where women participate in the labor force at one of the highest rates in the world, and where women have far better access to health care, to capital, and to the legal system than we had 40 years ago. And it's because of your work that we have. But anyone under the misconception that the goals of the women's movement have been achieved need only look at the failure of our own state Senate to protect a woman's right to choose, to realize that we have to continue this fight for equality. Whether the issue is minimum wage, reproductive freedom, immigration reform, healthcare, education, child care, women and men do not always share a common stake in the outcome. That's simply a fact. For example, women make up 2/3 of all minimum wage workers. Nearly 30% of single moms live at or below the poverty level compared to 6% of men. The decisions that we make, the policy decisions that we make, impact women differently, and women being at the table matters. Too many women have rejected getting into politics because of the barriers to entry. You know, it's seen as an old boys club. It's hard to raise money. It's difficult for women to think about all of the things that they have to do to put a campaign into place. I'm fortunate that I have an amazing husband, Bob, you're here. Who has been so supportive of this effort. I couldn't have done it without him. But we need to get more women willing to step up and to participate. Only 17% of cities with populations over 30,000 are led by women. And only 12 of our 100 largest cities have a woman mayor. Think about that. Our lives are impacted, and we need to make sure that more and more women like Dorcey and others are willing to come forward. And it's because Gloria came out early in support of me and realized it's not just enough to break the barriers. It's not just enough to say women can be here. We have to provide them with the tools in order to get there, that I'm even standing here today. So thank you. But you know, I'm not doing this so that I can play by the existing rules. I'm doing this so that we can change the rules. We've pushed through so many barriers, and it's very important to recognize that having the opportunity and seizing the opportunity are two very different things, and we don't have an option to turn back now. We have an overwhelming number of women advocates and public servants serving in administrative and even high-level commissioner positions. But if we want better outcomes for women, we must be in positions of real power. And that means elected office at every level, in City Hall, in our state capitals, in Congress, and as our next president. So thank you so much for making it possible for me to be here. And even though we are doing well, I like to say we're 10 points down. We've got to keep fighting. We have 30 days, and we really want to show that we have changed how things are done in Albany. I'd love to see us have voter participation go through the roof. You know, we need to get people out there. We need to get them excited, and I need your help. So thank you so much.